Welcome aboard, everybody. You see the red and the blue and the beautiful helmets below us. It's time to talk all things Buffalo Bills. The Manchild Show with Boyd Green Digital is now presented by our friends at Northeast Roofing Professionals. Look at that beautiful little sign above us there. Northeast Roofing Professionals. They do a fantastic job of putting up roofs here in central New York. If you live in Fayetteville or DeWitt, that's their area of coverage. And if you're in those surrounding areas, they can cover you as well. And by the way, now's the time to start thinking about roofing repairs or perhaps replacing your roof. You want to book your appointment now for the warm weather. That's what you do. So think roof in the winter because you got to set it up, especially when these companies are good, like our friends at Northeast Roofing Professionals. They get booked up, so you want to get there as early and often as you can. Today's video is brought to you by our friends at Sharky's, and we'll hear a little bit more about our friends from Sharky's Bar and Grill in Liverpool in just a little bit. You see him right next to me. He's the one, the only from Cover One, Anthony Prohaska, talks Bills with us every week. Good morning, Anthony. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. You know, it's funny. I noticed when we were talking offline, I noticed the Northeast Roofing Professionals logo above us. I was like, that's new. And I really like it. It's a good logo. I like the
cool
three
logo.
peaks. I like the blue.
Yes.
Yeah, I like
nice
just the scene it
right?
invokes. It could honestly be like, I could see that being like a logo for a sports team type of deal. It just has, I don't know if it's the circle nature of it, but it's a really good logo. They did a good job. It's catching my eye. I like it.
You know what I thought of when I first saw it is the Denver Nuggets logo.
Oh, yes.
With the mountain, a similar logo.
If you just put the little
brain, right?
the little mining picks in the cross in front of it. Yeah, good call. Yeah, that's it. That's
all right. So Northeast Roofing Professionals, good job on your logo, fellas. And even better job doing roofs. So go see our friends at Northeast Roofing Professionals, big time supporters now of our show, and we do appreciate them. That is for sure. All right, Anthony, it's Super Bowl week. Let's hold on to the Super Bowl stuff for later. We'll entice and have some fun with that a little bit later, but let's dig right in on the Buffalo Bills. And man, we had ourselves an interesting press conference earlier this week. I want to start with that. Why not start with the fire and brimstone? Brandon Beane firing back at critics, fans, members of the media who have been critical of him. I think it was aimed at everyone. I'm going to pop up some of the remarks here on the screen and we'll read through them. These are the words of Brandon Beane. He said, bleep the outside. It's about the right selection for this team. And if we win, they'll love it. Talking about the fans. It's the same thing I said when I took Josh Allen. If I'm wrong, the moving company will be at my house. And then later in his statement, he said, so I understand, and I'm not going to have regret of choosing someone to appease the outside if I thought it should be something different. If I'm wrong, I'll bleep and take my job and bleep and go home. I would love for everyone to cheer every move, but it's not about winning the press conference. It's about winning games over there. Let's talk, Anthony. Some fiery words from Brandon Beane. My goodness.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that hits for me is the last time he was this fiery was on the radio about the wide receivers, and that kind of backfired. So I hope this all doesn't backfire. But yeah, he's been making the rounds. Joe Brady has been making the rounds. They've been making the rounds together, just kind of on this media tour of really planting their flag for themselves and for the organization amidst as he's alluded to here, and we've talked about amongst I would say a pretty fair share of doubt and lack of faith or belief in Beane and Pagula, in the Bills and Brady. I think this is, these comments and somewhat of this media tour is a result of the optics. Like, they hear and they understand. They know what the noise is right now, and they know the frustration from the fans dating back to the past offseason, then throughout the season, and then throughout the firing of Sean McDermott and how everything kind of turned on its head and how the fans kind of rallied around that and got their torches and pitchforks even more if they hadn't already. So I think they know the temperature, and it seems like Beane is reacting to that. And I don't think anything that he's saying here is, wholly untrue, right? It's always about making the right selection. And if you winning cures everything. We've seen that across all sports for forever, tale as old as time type things there. And yeah, you're not making moves to appease the outside. So again, I don't think he's saying anything that's true or untrue or completely out of pocket, but yeah, it does seem like he's really puffing his chest out a little bit and trying to clap back at the haters or the doubters, much like he did when he was on the radio last year defending the wide receiver position after the draft.
I guess it's fire. I mean, I don't mind fire once in a while, and he's definitely feeling the heat. When you let go of the head coach, and a lot of people who have been critical of the team over the last couple of seasons say, where are the receivers? Where is this roster? I mean, the veterans and the older folks that were essentially on the field at the end of this Bills season once the injuries started to mount. To think that Trey White is a starter and a vital starter at the end of this football season is shocking to me. If we had talked about that at the beginning of the season, we would have been laughing, right? I mean, sure, could Trey White maybe contribute? Could he be, kind of a guy that could help out in the secondary and be a depth piece? And now all of a sudden you're like, he's a vital starter. We need that guy in there. Oh my God, he hurt. What are we going to do? So I think, there has been a lot of heat on the roster, which leads me to my next question, Anthony, and that's this. Okay, you got your guy now. You've made your change. All right, it's time to adapt or die. The Bills are going to try to do that. They still have a pretty good football team, but they need to make some roster moves. And I think the heat is on both Joe Brady and Beane, but more so Beane, because if he doesn't help construct a good team for Joe Brady, things are not going to get better. They're likely going to get worse. So what do you think the emphasis will be this offseason in terms of how much the Bills will spend? Do the Bills, frankly, have the wallet to spend, Anthony? And, of course, they need to hit a few in the NFL draft. Let's just talk about roster construction and how the heat is on Brandon Beane.
It is on Brandon Beane. I think for so long with this team, it was Beane and McDermott, Beane and McDermott. I mean, like the nickname for Bills fans was McBean because it was always like they were in lockstep.
Two of them, they really were.
Yeah, steering the ship together and all that. And, there was plenty of questions about McDermott from the fans for years and his game management and on-field execution, just like there were plenty of questions for Beane and the roster construction and who was brought in and who wasn't and so on and so forth. But I do think there's a good amount of pressure on him because for better or for worse, however went down, he's the last man standing and he's running the full ship now. Everybody in the football operation reports to Brandon Beane. And he had a significant hand in retaining Joe Brady and promoting him to head coach. And I do think they will make a splash as much as they can. You asked if they have like the wallet for it. They do have the wallet for it. It's just a matter of if they have the salary cap space for it. They can get creative a little bit and nothing too crazy, right? It's not like, okay, signing guys to having all these void years, which is so ugly like they have now. Like Matt Milano's not on the roster for 2026, but he's got an $11 million cap hit because of a void year. And then like a $5 million cap hit in 2027 because of a void year. So I don't think they necessarily have to get creative with that, but you have some guys who could be cut. Taylor Rapp could save you about $3 million. Dawson Knox, you can chop him or maybe restructure him. Curtis Samuel is up there. There's a multitude of guys and moves that they could potentially make, but I mean, they've got two holes that are significant on the offensive side. You have to add, you have to figure out who your starting left guard is and who your starting center is. And maybe that's already in-house. Maybe it's Alec Anderson at guard or center. Maybe it's Cedric Van Pran Granger at center. Maybe it's one of those or both in some combination. Maybe the call is already coming from inside the house there. But you have to address those spots. You'll have to add to your defense regardless. Even if McDermott and Babbage stayed and everything on defense was the same, you lost a lot of bodies. So you already had to add bodies to edge and the interior defensive line and linebacker and at safety. And now you have to do so, but with some different archetypes because you have a new defense and philosophy and identity on that side of the ball. So that becomes even more important. So there's moves that they had to make already. They don't have a ton of cap space. Despite all that, I do think they are going to try and make a splash because I do think they're going to try and make sure that they're as strong as possible because they know any faltering, any failure, any shortcoming will kind of be laid at their feet because they've set it up to kind of lay it at Sean McDermott's feet. So if they have similar failures or if they do worse than a previous McDermott-led Bills teams, I think they know fans will point and be like, well, McDermott was the problem. You were the problem.
Look, my buddy Boy Green loves a good trade. There have been some rumors out there about a splash move, perhaps for the Bills. A.J. Brown, who doesn't seem all that happy in Philadelphia. Do you think that they would partake in something like that? And do you even like Brown as a fit on this Bills team? Because obviously receiver has got to be Operation One after that disastrous press conference. Let's go get ourselves a real receiver because Keon Coleman, we all know he stinks. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think they're going to try and get a receiver. I think they're going to try and make a big acquisition there, whether it's early in the draft or in free agency. I think they'd like somebody who's proven that'll kind of help the team, but also maybe get the heat off their back and the fans off their back a little bit leading into the rest of this offseason. A.J. Brown is an interesting one. He's just kind of a unicorn of a dude with the athleticism, size, strength, frame, speed. I'm not, clued into Philly as much, but it just seems so muddy with him. And I know Sirianni isn't great. Maybe it's Sirianni's fault. I mean, Jeff Stoutland was, just kind of moved on. And essentially it was because Sirianni took a bunch of responsibilities away from him and pulled the rug out from under him at the last minute, which is ridiculous because Stout is arguably the best offensive line coach in all of football and one of the best position coaches in all of football across the board. So maybe A.J. Brown's frustrations are due to Sirianni, or maybe there's something bigger. Maybe it's because it's who A.J. Brown is, and maybe he's not the best kind of teammate. I don't know. It's muddy. They did this with Stephon Diggs before when they got him from Minnesota, but I think his issues were less muddy than Brown's. I just think it's funny, too, with A.J. Brown of how, his skill set fits. We'll see if his personality fits. But I think it's funny for the fans who clamor for A.J. Brown after they all ran Stephon Diggs out of town for being too selfish or being a problem. But, you're willing to grab another guy who may be a bigger problem than Diggs was ever or at one point. Yeah, because even my thing with Diggs, right? Diggs' issue, Minnesota I can't speak to, but Diggs' main issues in Buffalo were, he just wanted to win. And granted, he didn't go about it the right way. But essentially, at the end of the day, it's like somebody who has a job, right? If you think there's a better job somewhere else where you can perform better, the company can do better, and you'll be happier, you're going to want to go interview for that other job. And if that's what he did, he essentially did that. And fans vilified him tremendously for the way he went out. And now you're getting another kind of, alpha type wide receiver who is, kind of very much into the Twitter memes of what do wide receivers say when they tweet the enemy moves silent, holds a knife or whatever. Right. That's the A.J. Brown type of deal. Do you want that? It's okay now, but it wasn't with Diggs. I mean, his skill set's a fit. His talent's a fit. I don't know about the personality at this point, given all the rumblings in Philly, but Philly's a mess overall. So it's so tough to kind of parse all that.
What about a splash on the other side of the ball? Wide receiver, sure, that's sexy, but there was another name that's emerged this week. Max Crosby, according to Jay Glazer, is going to hit the eject button. And come on, man, what about a splash on defense? You guys tried to do that in a very different way with Bosa last year, and there was a lot of success. If you look some of the raw numbers, there's a lot of success there. But what about Max Crosby? Because he seems like he's a different beast entirely. It would cost a lot. Apparently, the reports are it would cost even more than the Packers gave up for Micah Parsons, but man, Max Crosby's a special player.
I would rather have Max Crosby than A.J. Brown. No, not to slight A.J. Brown. I just love Max Crosby. I have for years. Just the type of player that I've never seen a dude, and I'm not even saying that with hyperbole, was saying never seen a dude. I really don't think I've ever seen a football player be on the field as much as he is, which is pretty much all the time. And he's always going 100 miles an hour. You never see a rep where you're oh, Crosby's gassed or Crosby's not giving it his all. Every rep is 100 miles an hour 100% of the time versus the run, versus the pass, everything. I just think it's going to cost too much. He's getting paid a pretty handsome penny. And you alluded to, it might cost more than the Packers gave for Parsons. It was, I saw last night, it was rumored, not even rumored, kind of confirmed. The Seahawks tried to trade for him at the deadline. They offered
for 2 firsts.
Yeah. And the Raiders were no. So it's gonna cost you money because you got to take his contract on, and it's gonna cost you a good chunk of draft capital and or player capital. And with the rest of the moves the Bills already need to make, again, the Bills need some quality in this lineup, but they also just need bodies. They don't have enough bodies along a multitude of spots on the defense, and they have to reinforce the offensive line now. So I don't know if this move is in the cards for them with what it's going to cost, not just for the money they have to take on and pay him, but for what you have to give up to get him. But I take him. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's pretty good. You mentioned about perhaps some reconstruction of the defense, and there are some big, decisions to be made here. Joey Bosa and what's the replacement going to look like there? What about Matt Milano and whether or not there'd be any chance that they would hang on to him, or are they moving on there? Talk to me about a little bit about the reconstruction of this defense, because aside from the wide receiver position, that seems to be the biggest concern in this team during the offseason and trying to rebuild it. And as it seems very, very apparent, they're making a lot of moves on the defensive side in terms of the coaching and everything now that McDermott's gone, essentially saying this was a wreck and we got to rebuild it. So they got to rebuild it, and they're rebuilding it on the coaching staff. I assume they got to rebuild it from a roster perspective. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, you're moving towards a different defensive philosophy and identity under Jim Leonard, along with a different scheme and different structure. And, he's more of an odd front type of defense, 3-4 defense for those who, are more comfortable with that terminology. That's his base, but he will do like 4 down nickel stuff. So you are going to see elements that were present in the Buffalo Bills defense under Sean McDermott. But if you watch Jim Leonard, at Wisconsin, or you watch those teams when he was the defensive coordinator there and DB's coach from 2017 through 2022, and you just think about the type of players like linebacker, for example, right? Like the linebackers that they had in his stead, it's guys like Zach Baun and Andrew Van Ginkel and Leo Chenal and Jack Sanborn and Nick Herbig, all these type of like odd front hybridized type of linebackers who can rush off the edge, could drop into coverage, can fill the run from an inside spot, still cover from an inside spot. Like all these hybrid guys, that's not how the Bills linebacker group is built right now. If you also look up front, with how they're built, you're going to have to add some more of your defensive line to be, or like your interior defensive linemen now are also going to kind of have to move to more of those 3-4 defensive end spots, right? Like Ed Oliver, he's not going to play as a nose tackle, covering up the center. He's more going to be like a 3-4 defensive end who's on the inside shoulder of a tackle. And, using the Denver Broncos for a good example, right? Like think to Denver last year, if you go when they were in their odd front looks and they'd have 5 down across the board.
Right.
And, it was Jonathan Cooper to John Franklin Myers to DJ Jones to Zach Allen to Nick Benito, right? Rousseau is probably going to, and I'm not saying this is a like for like, so nobody yell at me or bite my head off. Like, these aren't the same type of players. But if you took what the Bills have right now, it would be like Greg Rousseau to Ed Oliver to Deion Walker to TJ Sanders or Landon Jackson. I don't think Sanders is an ideal like 3-4 defensive end. Landon Jackson might be, but you might have to get him a little heavier like he was at Arkansas a couple years ago when he played inside. And then outside of that is probably Michael Hoyt playing the other bookend opposite of Rousseau, but he's coming off an Achilles. And that's just off of basically what you have right now. And then who are your 2 inside linebackers behind him? Is it Terrell Bernard, Dorian Williams? So I think it's not only adding bodies now, but it's looking at some different archetypes, right? You need a true nose to bring in and like free up Deion Walker a little bit and let that guy kind of take some more of the early down reps and be a problem and a menace and some sandpaper inside. You need more 3-4 odd front defensive ends who can play, 4 eyes inside the shoulders of the tackles when you go in odd fronts, or who can kick inside to a 1-tech or a 3-tech when you go with true 4 down stuff. And then, you need linebackers who are more versatile, capable of plug in, anywhere from the A gap to the C gap versus the run, rushing off the outside, dropping into coverage, both the hook curls and the curl to flats. So they've got some work to do. I think there's some cost-effective options out there, but there's no doubt, some turnover and some churn that's going to happen, which already had to happen anyway because they lost a bunch of guys to free agency.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fascinating offseason for the Buffalo Bills. Today's show presented by our friends at Northeast Roofing Professionals, that lovely logo that Anthony commented on earlier, beautiful looking, kind of like the Denver Nuggets. Let's take 30 seconds, learn a little bit more about our friends from Northeast Roofing.
Finding the right local roofing company can be tricky. You don't want to hire the wrong roofers, or you could end up spending a fortune on repairs. The pros at Northeast Roofing Professionals can ensure your home is protected by a strong and sturdy roof. Locally owned and operated, over 30 years experience, free estimates, and competitively priced. Don't settle for an inexperienced roofing contractor. Turn to Northeast Roofing Professionals. Discounts for military and first responders. Reach out and let them put a sturdy roof over your head. NERPCNY.com. NERPCNY.com.
All right, we are back talking all things Buffalo Bills. It's the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Hit that subscribe button. Be part of our growing family of subscribers. Heck, you can get even more involved if you want and become a member. We now have membership on our channel where you can join the 12th Manchild, our membership group.
Oh, that's good.
And get some really cool perks, including some custom emojis. Anthony, there's an Mookie emoji. My dog Mookie. I know you've seen him from time to time. He's, as usual, about 5 feet away from me, sleeping on the floor. Here's our membership levels. We have 3 of them. You can just get in on the ground floor and get some emojis and some cool stuff at $4.99. You want to go a little further, be a diehard, you could pay $9.99. And if you want to get into our exclusive online digital fantasy league, you can join for $19.99 a month, and you are automatically in the league. You will play against Paul and me, and we're going to get ourselves a really hopped up trophy. Yep, there's the Mookie emoji. What do you think? Is it a likeness or not, Anthony? You like it?
I do. I think I like it. I think it's a good likeness. It's oddly adorable and intimidating at the same time. I'm kind of like, you know, in a trance looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Mesmerized by it. Mesmerized, for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey, a little fun one here. Obviously, anything Bills we always talk to you about, and Boy Green's Jets have hired a former Bill. He's going to be their offensive coordinator, someone that the people in Buffalo are very familiar with, Frank Reich, who's certainly been around the block since his Buffalo days. We've talked a little bit tertiarily about that with you over the weeks, but let's talk about it now that it's a done deal. Is Reich a good fit, and how can he help Aaron Glenn in New York?
Man, I really valued Frank Reich when he was with the Colts several years ago. I thought he was a good offensive mind, running the show, even to the point that, you know, when Brian Daboll left and everything, like I think a lot of folks are ready to be like, no, get Frank Reich in here. And then Frank Reich got fired. I was like, get Frank Reich to be the offensive coordinator. He's obviously got the Buffalo ties, was really highly valued at that moment. But I feel like a lot of the excitement has cooled off from him, or cooled down. Even kind of seeing Paul's face when us talking about Frank Reich, it's a smile, but it's more of like a painful or wry type of smile. And you know, his tenure in Indianapolis kind of came to a bleak end. The run in Carolina, where he was their head coach, I think for only a season, was less than great. I still like him. I think and I'm not just saying this to get under Paul's skin, I swear, but I just feel like the Jets everything is such a mess right now with the Jets that it's like hard to get excited about much. But I think Frank Reich is a proven guy to some degree, but there's just so many problems across the board with the roster. I think a lot of it stems down from, you know, the owner whose sons are making decisions because of Madden awareness levels. Like there's just such a problem with the organization. And I'm a firm believer in, you know, the idea of like bad teams stay bad because of bad owners. And I think Woody Johnson's a bad owner, which is part of why I was always hesitant to break up McDermott and Beane, because I've seen the Sabres struggle for years because of Terry Pagula. So I was always like, he might be a bad owner, and I kind of don't want to risk that with the Bills. Like, so what does that mean? But yeah, I think that the Jets are such a kind of fire right now, or dumpster fire. But I like Frank Reich. I'm sorry, Paul. But at least you got, hey, it could be worse. You know, you have 2 cornerstone franchise defensive pillars in Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner to build around. Quincy Williams is locked up long-term. He'll be there to just anchor the second level of the defense. And you know what's even better? Like, not only that you have Sauce, but you got DJ Reed at the other corner spot. So everything's falling into place there. Really Leonard Williams is still there to kind of run the other pieces of the defense along with Quinnen Williams.
If they only kept all their guys, imagine the roster they'd have, Anthony. I mean, what an amazing roster it would be. Because you still need somebody to coach it, and they still haven't figured out that piece either. But I'll say this about this, Paul, then I'll let you jump in. It's really good for business. For those that don't know, Paul, a.k.a. Boy Green, has a Jets-only channel called Boy Green Daily. He does that show every morning at 7:30. You can join in. Feel free to subscribe over there as well. And Paul, you know, this is good for business, Anthony. Chaos is great for business. We've never had more views on our Syracuse basketball videos because the coach is under fire and the team's not playing well. So sometimes when things are a disaster, the fans need somewhere to run. Where do they come? They come to us, baby, and we don't mind being here for you, my friends.
I'm waiting for Paul I know Paul wants to clap back at me. I didn't mean it to be mean.
No. It's all right. Well, first off, let me address Manchild first and just say, if this wasn't abundantly clear, I would give up the fame or whatever you want to call the fame, the click, downloads, the Jets to win. I would give it all up.
Yeah,
I'd give it. Fair. But no, let me go to you, Anthony.
Okay.
Anthony. You know, it's interesting. We're highlighting all these things. Oh, the Jets once had this. Wasn't that a real hoot? You know, we're looking at the Super Bowl a dark place for Bills fans, understandably. And there's a guy in the Super Bowl that seems to be the secret sauce of the Seattle Seahawks. Leslie Frazier. I'm curious how Buffalo people feel about this guy. He's unceremoniously thrown out the building for all these weird reasons in Buffalo after all his dedication as a defensive coordinator, assistant head coach. He's like, that's fine. I'm going to take my HC duties to Seattle as the assistant head coach. And now he apparently has been such a calming influence on Mike McDonald in the Super Bowl. So how do Bills fans feel about old Leslie Frazier, who you guys tossed like the wind, and this guy's so experienced, so respected, and you guys didn't give a flying hoot about him and chucked him out into the streets like just some hobo?
Well, one, I don't think they chucked him like that. Two, I don't think you can toss anybody like the wind because you can't toss the wind. The wind more tosses you, but I guess conversation for another time. I think if you ask most Bills fans, they probably had no idea that Leslie Frazier has been with Seattle for the past couple of years in any capacity. That just because he's a quiet guy. I think it was a quiet type of hire.
Yeah.
I think he's a good defensive mind. He's a good assistant. He's a good kind of guy to have in the building. I don't know if I'm going to credit him for this defensive turnaround and everything that happens. I think, Mike McDonald is the straw that stirs the drink in that system. Sure. Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. I'm a hater. I am not. I think it's more of McDonald and his system and how he coaches it and how sound they are schematically and fundamentally, not to mention a couple or a good handful of the players they have on that defensive side. But Leslie Frazier's a good mind. I think he's the exact type of dude, like a veteran, calming presence with plenty of experience, who has a good head on his shoulders as a person, but also as like a football mind. He's the perfect kind of guy you want as, whatever you're going to label it, like as an assistant head coach or as an analyst or as, one of those spots to just, again, help kind of keep the ship going where it's supposed to go. Like whether it's the navigator or the whatever positions that exist on a ship, I don't know them. He's the right kind of guy I think you want to have in the building. He's a good guy to have.
Hey, by the way, I don't know if you know this because, it looks like Sean McDermott's taking a year off, but were his arms tired from throwing all those people under the bus? Leslie Frazier, Ken Dorsey? Was he just running out of coordinators to back a bus over as he went over them?
How did he throw them under? How did he throw them under the bus?
Blaming them and saving himself.
When did he blame them? How did he come out and say, "Oh, it's Ken"?
He fired them.
Dorsey's
I mean,
fault?
That's sort of blaming them for all the mistakes in Buffalo.
Or do we know it was explicitly him that he pinned it? How much was Beane involved?
So he was tied in the back room, and oh my God, my coordinator's being fired. I would save them if I wasn't tied up in the back room. Is that what happened? Well,
no, I don't think that's what was happening at all. I don't think. I'm just positing other questions because I feel like you're not so much.
Maybe answer questions. You're answering my questions with questions. Why don't you have some answers, buddy?
Well, because you're not really looking for answers. You're just trying to create a fire that maybe doesn't exist or stoke some flames that might
move
be
myself
dying.
to the middle just so I can referee you too.
Yeah, I'm just positing other ideas because it seems like you're a little upset.
No, I'm not upset.
And okay, that's fine. I just feel like you much like horrible wrestler John Cena that people can't see. I feel like you can't see a lot of hope with the Jets right now, and so you're just a little frustrated.
I can barely see any of his remaining coordinators because he backed them all over with a bus.
It's
hard to see.
What about it? Didn't Aaron Glenn just fire the entire staff?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
It's a good point right there.
Did literally every coach get fired for the Jets?
Speak now. That was a good mic drop right there, Anthony.
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
What I was going to say is in all honesty, I actually thought that those McDermott moves came at the right time, and I actually thought the change was actually needed.
Cool heads prevail. Thank you, Jim.
And I also have never really felt like Sean McDermott ever threw anybody in the bus under the bus. I think one of the things that really attracts me, as an admirer of Sean McDermott, coach, is that I think he's a stand-up guy. I think he's I think he wears it on his sleeve. I think he's a very honest, kind of earnest guy. I like coaches that are like that. I like coaches that, to me, feel like there is a line of integrity in the sand and they stay on a particular side of it. I don't know. I find him to be a stand-up guy. And,
I don't want to go too deep into this, but I'm sure Anthony knows where I'm about to go. I don't know about Sean McDermott and analogies, okay, and in some of the rooms to motivate the players. So one of those plans that a certain great buddy of ours, Ty Dunn, covered for Go Long. Sean McDermott went long on one of those comparisons for the Bills team. That was a little. If folks, if you don't know what I'm talking about, hit that with a Google search, and then I think you'll see it on this stand-up guy, Sean McDermott. But okay,
well, he made an unfortunate analogy one time. I don't think that necessarily means he's not a stand-up guy. And I also would look at, the plethora of veteran players that continued to come around for Sean McDermott, not just the ones who played for him regularly, but guys like Emmanuel Sanders that came throughout the years and spoke highly of him and the organization and the culture. There's again, for as many of his faults from an in-game management perspective or schematically or philosophically or identity-wise for the defense, which has been my biggest issue for the past couple or several years, really, which is why I started tweeting about wanting Jim Leonhard back in 2023. I think Sean McDermott, the leader, and Sean McDermott, like the culture setter and tone setter, is one of the better guys in the league. Like, if you need a franchise turned around and you need to get them on the right path, I think he's the guy for you. I don't know if he's the guy that's going to get you to the promised land that you want to go and get to. But he's the guy that if you need to tear down the ship and build a new one and make it quality and make it somewhere that people want to come and come to work and can do a good job, he's an absolute, home run guy. It's just a matter of whether or not he can do it going forward. And I think part of it is due to his character and the culture that he sets as an individual person and then as an organization.
I mean, it's a beautiful yin yang. I'm glad that Sean McDermott built up this boat and Joe Brady's going to destroy it. So phenomenal.
Well,
great.
We don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Joe Brady did, again, I think he got a little too much hate as an offensive coordinator last year, even though I had several qualms with him from a play calling and conceptual standpoint, kind of how he built things. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to kind of right the ship.
Many qualms.
It's going to be tough to right the ship in McDermott's stead. And you got a tough conference to play in. You've got a division where, the Patriots look to be back. We'll see what happens with the Dolphins. The Jets are just flush with talent and quality coaching and quality ownership. That's really honestly the big one, right? When you have a team that's just made so many sound decisions like the New York Jets for years, and you just have quality on top of quality when it comes to the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And when you've hit on your draft picks across multiple regime changes and you've nailed your head coaches and, you haven't thrown any head coaches under the bus like Robert Saleh and made him try to be the blame, even though he was keeping it together with the defense that he had, and you haven't shipped off any of your good players for draft picks, and you have a great history of drafting and using draft capital well, like the Jets, it can get scary for a team like the Bills who are in their same division,
Again, I just find it interesting that we're throwing these rocks from this glass house of ownership. You're like, that Woody Johnson ownership. Hey, can I make a request? Can we get Terry Pegula to speak more often? I like what I'm hearing from Terry Pegula. Very sound reasoning of that, firing people after one game and then later saying, I didn't fire him for that game. I like the consistency of ownership. That's the key. Some people say continuity. Consistency is the key. I'm excited for a beautiful Buffalo future.
You know what? Actually, that might even speak more to, I got one for you. With how
great.
Terry Pegula is maybe as an owner, I think that might even speak more to Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, that they were able to have all the success in spite of maybe a poor owner or a crazy owner. If the Jets had some of that with good old Woody, you wouldn't be one of the worst franchises in football for the last however many years.
Wow, nice. Glad we give out blue ribbons for not winning Super Bowls here. That's
gave out a blue ribbon.
How satisfied are Bills fans? How many failures? You know what I love?
Get off this. You went to the Super Bowl when it was black and white TVs before anybody knew what football was. There were 6 teams in the NFL when you went to a Super Bowl. Nobody knew what football was. Nobody knew what a bench press was or a 40-yard dash was when you went to the Super Bowl. Congratulations for that 1 year of relevance and the 50 years of mediocrity and subpar garbage after.
You were electricians and plumbers back then. That's
and I'm so happy about this.
Plumbers.
In the AFC East, I have a front row seat to watch you guys waste the prime of Josh Allen. You finally got quarterback right, and you're going to destroy it, and he's not going to win a Super Bowl. That's the part that I enjoy the most.
Who's going to destroy it? The offensive coordinator?
He is destroying it on a year-to-year basis. They're not winning the Super Bowl. And then when Josh Allen retires and he's in the Hall of Fame, just like Jim Kelly, and he's like, well, my one regret is they would have left to bring a Super Bowl to Buffalo, and then it doesn't happen. That's what I'm going to enjoy. The tasty tears of Anthony Prohaska.
I won't cry. Do you know how, honestly, sincerely, like all like jokes aside, the odds of any one team winning the Super Bowl versus one of the other 31, the odds are with the field all the time. That's why, like, I'm not judging any player or any really person of like, did they win a Super Bowl or not? It's super hard to do that. There's a multitude of things that have to go right. I think Dan Marino is still arguably the best quarterback all time. He only got to one, ironically, because the Bills got
Listen to this guy. I'm in church right now. Here.
It's hard to get there. And I think judging, individual players off of that can be tough at times. I guess you got a replica ring one time for a Super Bowl. That's cute, I guess. Did you get it in a box of Fruit Loops or something like that?
Yeah, probably. Probably. He is the exact opposite of you and me, Anthony. He is Mr. If you don't have a ring, you're not great. I talk about Marino with him all the time. All right, get him off that screen. Get us back. Put us back. Crying out loud.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, let's end this wonderful conversation, as bad as it's gotten, with some Super Bowl talk. It is Super Bowl week. I want to spend a little time with each of our insiders talking about the Super Bowl. So, Anthony, none of our teams are in the Super Bowl. However, there are two pretty good teams, two interesting teams to say the least, and one of them is from your division. So let's talk about it. The Patriots and the Seahawks. What do you think this Super Bowl is going to look like? And point out anything you want that you think is interesting about this year's Super Bowl.
I'm really interested in trying to see what the Patriots are, just with the strength of schedule things and even the wonkiness in the playoffs, right? With the Texans offense and then playing a backup quarterback, and then all of a sudden a blizzard hits mid-game and everything kind of stops. Like, how for real are the Patriots? Can they, win this matchup against the team that really has been solid from, end to end with the Seahawks, with what they came out of the gate looking like, what they've been defensively all year, what Sam Darnold has looked like at points. Clint Kubiak is this hot name offensive mind that looks like he's going to be the next head coach of the Raiders. They've got JSN, who is arguably, or probably the best wide receiver in the NFL right now at this moment, depending on how you feel about Puka Nacua, from a statistical perspective. But yeah, I'm really just intrigued to see kind of how the opposite ends of the spectrum meet, right? You have Drake May, who's in the MVP conversation, but I think for a lot of people, the Patriots team is underwhelming and their wins have been underwhelming. Whereas on the other side, I think the Seahawks have been kind of like the darlings for a lot of folks this year with, Mike McDonald and what he's doing. Clint Kubiak and what he's doing. JSN and, look at their front, like how great DeMarcus Lawrence has been as an addition. You got Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams and Nick Emenwari fits so great. And, Witherspoon and all the DBs and all this stuff. I'm interested to see kind of how everything clashes. Like, are the Patriots better than we think they are? Or do they have a great game plan to go up against a team that has really been a favorite for a lot of the year, not just in the NFC, but I think league-wide? Like, Seattle's been a team, not the power rankings are the end-all be-all, but I feel like Seattle's been a team in the top 5 or top 3 or top 2 of the power rankings for a good, heavy chunk of the year, no matter what they've done. And I think it's an interesting clash between two teams and how they each got here and then how that plays out individually.
All right. It's going to be a fascinating Super Bowl. Anthony, always great to catch up with you, my friend. We'll continue talking during the offseason. We're heading towards the NFL draft. A lot of excitement. By the way, the NFL draft in Pittsburgh this year, the Steel City, not all that far away from both of us. You even closer to you, Anthony. It was a little 3-hour drive probably down from Buffalo, right? Shuffle on down.
Yeah, it is like 3 hours. 3 hours.
About 5 hours here from good old central New York in this greater Syracuse area. So, yeah, probably about 3 hours. That'd be an easy little one.
I've driven there before. I think it is 3. You're right.
Yep. All right. Well, again, more to come next week, my friend. Thanks as always.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.